Hello everybody and welcome back to my custom chess position. What's your decision? In this video I just want to discuss a couple of things that are a couple of theory ideas that are now basically out of style um, in 2026. So as the saying always goes, if you haven't seen the prior videos, you can see those first. But I just want to go through a couple of things. So the first one, which will be quick to go through, is this 1g4 opening, because there hasn't really been much new theory in the position. It's just that the prior theory in the custom position said that white was fine, um, but now based on new engine evaluations from Torch 4 and practical games, it does seem that this move is like not as good. So g4, c5, I'm just going to go through. So f4 was the this is actually better than knight g3. So f4 was the considered the good move, the best move here. And after knight e6, the move we had was e3, and then d5, knight d3, and then if bishop b5 was played, the move I had was king g3, where white actually just, if I go forward a few moves, white just puts the king to safety and um, allows black to take on f6, but they argue that their king is safe. And last year when I last went over this theory, it actually evaluated, the engine was giving this evaluation a slightly better for white, and I concluded that because white's king is in no real danger, can be a legitimate way to play the position. And if you look at the engine evaluations right now, you can see that it's showing black is slightly better now with Torch 4, which is stronger than Torch 2, which was out last year. However, it's like very slightly better for black, um, but still, also based on some practical games that I've played in the position, it's also a lot harder to play this position as white, and so I don't really recommend this setup. And because this was basically what I found before was like the best way to play this position as white, and now it most times loses, this is just not the ideal what we want to do. So I looked through a couple other things, and I looked at this move knight d3, and after d5 the move was like not e3, it was f3, bishop e5, g3, knight f2, and knight d4 here, e5, knight c6, and rook e1. So this is the move that I looked at very recently, like this idea, to see if there's any other style that was playable for white. Because of course with this f3 and g3 and g4 already being played, white is having their king being very safe. So black doesn't really have any sacrifices they could get. Often all these pawns are moved right like next to the king, so it's hard for black to do anything. But conversely, in this position, actually white is just they have pretty much no moves, and it was really funny was that like after, for example, rook f8, um actually here the engine saying f5. So after like rook c d8, um the engine was kind of just uh recommending white to kind of just go back and forth. For example, uh, rook f1, bishop c7, rook e1, and just call this one a draw if neither side can sacrifice, which of course is like an unambitious way to play. Um, or perhaps we could play bishop takes here. d4. But in any case, white is not any better in this position, and there's not really anything that can be done. So basically, in summary, g4 currently is one g4 currently is just out of style. So that's one update. Then the second update I wanted to make is and this is a little bit of a bigger update, which is there was another defense. So the f4 c5 f5 line. Um, One defense that was fine for black as of last year was 2c6. Um, However, so here black is attempting to use a knight to defend against a c3 pawn after rook f3 comes into the position, and we found the move e4, or I found the move e4 to be best move for white in this position. But in the new theory that I've found, it's basically white gets a positional advantage because they're able to just put a pawn on f5 and just have more space with the pawn on f5 and just more space in the position. So once both sides develop and neither side has freed their pieces, white is always just going to have more space and more opportunities. So for example, g takes f5, which the engine is showing as like the only holding move for black, but even this is losing because we go rook f3, and this one is more immediately losing. So this whole c6 idea for black is probably actually lost now in the long run, but f takes e4, rook takes e3. So I think even this, when I showed this last year, I concluded this one as winning for white, but um, just showing a couple of moves. So it seems like it's on the wrong move. So after knight f2, run the evaluation. And if I wait for a few minutes, it'll show, it's right now showing bishop d7 is fine, but if I go forward in bishop d7 after a couple of moves, um, if I look at the evaluation again, white is now going to be over +1. Yet this is somehow probably one of the best ways that, one of the best defenses that black has. So if we go all the way back over here, I mean the other move would be like knight b5, but after e takes f5, d5, knight d3, um, and then like d4 for example, g4, bishop d7, knight g3, rook e8. So like none of this is like, most of this is not any new theory, so I'm just gonna like go through it without an explanation, but it's more important that I just want to comment on like the end position um, in each of these lines, because the end position, pretty much each end position has one thing in common, that just white is just is better because they have more space, they have more pawns next to the king, which means their king would be safer if the pieces are freed. And for example, black doesn't have this like e6 square available to them, so like each time we look at the evaluation of the position, the engine prefers white by a pretty much winning margin, although there's no immediate win. So this should just be uh, positionally better, if not winning, for white. Example, the other move I saw here was knight d4. here actually white gets their pieces out. And white again um, is better by pretty much it, like the evaluation is almost plus 2 in all of these lines. And there's a bunch of lines, but not really much new. So I guess the main point of this video for this f4 c6 idea is just to show that this c6 move is probably now a little bit more out of style now because in the theory lines in this position, white just has a positional advantage by the end of the lines. And so then the best move is probably to go into this variation for black. But even here, um, white's pieces are freed, black's pieces are not freed. And once again, the evaluation is like +2. So everything's like pretty much +2 for white, and that just stemmed from the fact that white was able to just get their f pawn to f5 without much consequence, and kind of uh, squeeze black for activity. So as a quick, just as a wrap up to this video, because I've already released a couple of streams on the f4, f5 theory recently. Right now, the current, like, I guess, consensus right now is that this move f4, c5, f5, um, in the g takes f5 variations, it should be winning for white, although it's hard, but it should be winning for white in the long run. And now I'm saying that the c6 variations should be winning for white as well. However, the d5 variations where black doesn't take on f5, in my last video I just showed how that's no longer winning for white, as well as the trusty move knight e6, and then if f5, knight takes g5, that's also very much playable for black. So still lots of options remain, but just wanted to give a quick update about the playability of some of the uh, longest standing variations in this very sharp f4 f5 variation. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one.